Thank you. That introduction makes me feel so tired. That sounds like somebody who's working way too hard. But I am so glad to be here to talk to you today about two issues, and they are authenticity and identity. And sometimes identity gets in authenticity's way. And so that's what I want to talk to you about. And identity here can mean a lot of different things. It can mean the color of your skin. It can mean your religion. It can mean your origin, your country of origin. It can mean your sexuality. It can mean that you're from the Bronx and you're not from Manhattan. It depends. It depends on what you're comfortable with. But sometimes when those two things collide, several identities in my case, it makes it hard to fit in. So I'm going to share my story so that you can understand that there are ways to figure out how to make your identity fit wherever you are, even if you're the only woman at the all-man place, or you're the only black person at the all-white place, or whatever it is. You can make it work. And I'm going to come back to this, but I want to just focus on three words: own, live, and slay. All right? So that's going to come back, and I'll explain why at the end. But first, we're going to go back to the beginning, my beginning. So I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, in an all-black community on the south side of Chicago. And then when I was 10, my father came along and said, wait, we're going to move to Denver, suburban Denver. So, of course, our world turned upside down. I went from the all-black place to the all-white place, very uncomfortably. So when my family was really excited to have our own house and we were driving up to suburban Denver to see our new house, we saw the neighbors outside scrubbing something off the garage. Someone had wrote "Niggers Go Home" on our garage of our brand new house in the white neighborhood. That was terrible, and it turned out to be the two boys that I would go to school with for the next many years, who were the twins, who lived a few doors down. So that was how I first started. And then the first day of school was weirdly worse because no one spoke to me. Nobody said a word. I was like, wow, these people are so unfriendly. What's wrong with them? Then I heard that there had been a school assembly before I got there, the third grade assembly, to say, oh, something different's happening here in the white school. We are getting a black person. And so you have to be really careful about what you say to black people. Do not say the wrong thing. So all the little kids were so scared they didn't say anything to me. So I had no friends. All right, then I get the one friend. So I get the one friend, and she lives not too far from me, and she finally, after a year, invites me to her house. So then I'm so excited for my one play date, and so then she says to me, if it's okay, I didn't tell my parents you were black. And I was like, huh, okay. And she said, I said you were Filipino. So I hope that's okay. And I was like, well, why? And she said, well, it just sounds better. All right, so obviously I got a little race mess. It continued through my first job. So I went to school and studied journalism in college, and then I moved to New York and got my first job in journalism. And that whole weird thing started again with no one speaking to me. So then I figured out, oh, before I got there, my boss had jokingly said, oh, guess what? We have someone new. It's the affirmative action hire. So I was labeled the affirmative action hire. So everybody thought in their heads, and I thought in my head, oh, I'm not good enough. They just hired me to, check off a box. I'm just a quota. I wasn't sophisticated at that time to figure out what is this magazine doing in New York City, the most diverse place on the planet, with only white people, and why do they even need someone like me to have my voice heard and to represent the other voices of people across the country and around the world? I didn't get that, but now I do. So anyway, I had enough of this, and I said, you know what? I need to go to some place that's more of a home for me. So I focused on Essence Magazine, the magazine for black women. I put all of my energy toward getting to Essence Magazine, and it was across the street from that other place where I was working. So I was just like, I've got to get there, I've got to get there. And I did, eventually. I pushed my way in, and I became an editor of Essence Magazine. I was so thrilled. 7 million black readers we had. A whole community of black women I was working with. We were doing the important work, whether it was telling black women to get the right lipstick shade for your beautiful brown skin, or it was real social justice work. I was super excited. But once I got there, something was wrong. I know. Something was wrong. I didn't fit in. It had been my dream job, and suddenly I wasn't fitting in. And what I realized was I had a secret. Secrets can kill you. Secrets can hurt you. This is my role model, Audre Lorde. And one of her famous sayings was, "Your silence will not protect you." I learned that lesson the hard way. My secret was I was a lesbian. I am a lesbian. I'm still a lesbian. But I was afraid of telling anyone my secret at Essence because I had just gotten to the black woman nirvana, and so I was really afraid of ruining it by talking about my sexuality. I didn't understand that those identities could fit. I just thought they collided like a train wreck, like a traffic accident. I didn't understand that I could be both. And I was really afraid of not being accepted in my spiritual home, Essence Magazine. So I did not talk about it at all. And in fact, I didn't even talk at all. I turned into this person, I'm an outgoing person. I'm a college professor. I got to talk in front of a lot of people. I did not talk at all there. In fact, I rarely said anything. I was really, really, really quiet. And it didn't work there. The culture was, and you'll find out, the culture of the company that you end up working at is real. There's a culture. Our culture was revelation. Talk about yourself. Share your family story and share your personal stories in order to come up with better articles for our readers. That was the culture. It started at the top with our editor-in-chief, Susan Taylor. She had been a single mother who had gone through a really hard time, and she wrote about it a lot in the magazine. So everybody was like that. Everybody was talking about themselves, writing about themselves, and every week we called it the COB, Center of the Book meeting, every Tuesday. So every Tuesday it was like the Share Fest. So everybody, we'd go for 3 hours, a 3-hour meeting where people were talking about themselves, telling their family stories, really sharing, pouring their hearts out. Me? Nothing. In fact, I became the timekeeper of the meeting. So not only was I kind of like not sharing anything, I was shutting down other people sharing. Okay, time's up, time to stop talking. So that was not cool, and it wasn't getting me anywhere. And I just realized, what's happening? I'm ruining my dream here. All right, so the whole thing changed in one car ride. So we had, the senior editors had a meeting upstate, and it was like 3 days of Share Fest. Not 3 hours, 3 days. So we were at a retreat, spending the night, waking up, talk about yourself. Talk about your husband. Talk about your children, your family. Me? Nothing. Did not speak at all. Just keeping the time. Okay, your time's up, stop talking. All right, so I'm driving back and I end up with my boss, who's Miss Revelation. And I'm in the car and I'm like, I'm just so like bottled up. And so she was, of course, really happy because she had had this great weekend sharing with my sisters. And I was like, so she's driving and she says she loves to fix people up. So I think she thought I was lonely. That's why I wasn't talking. So she turns to me and she says, dear, puts her hand, one hand on the wheel, and then the other one saying like, I think you should meet someone. My brother-in-law is really wonderful. I lost it, okay? It was too much holding it in. And I turned to her, I'm not meeting your brother-in-law, I'm a lesbian. She was like, oh my God. Hang on to the steering wheel, don't drive off the road. So after she got her bearings back, she turned to me a little bit while she was driving and said, oh, I had no idea. Thank you for letting me know. Tell me more about your life. Do you have love in your life? Does your mother know what's going on? And I explained to her that I had already come out to my mother. My mother did not like it. 5 years earlier when I was in college, she hated it, and she fought with me, and she used guilt. You're not gonna be a lesbian. Oh, is it my fault? Anger. No daughter of mine is a lesbian. I mean, she really went wild until she landed at, well, this is still my child, I can't kill her, and so I've got to find some acceptance. And she ended up being very accepting and loving me just the way I am. All right, so back to the car, I tell the whole story, I tell my boss, everything's cool, I'm so happy, I'm super relieved, everything that was bottled up is let go. All right, that's a Sunday. On Monday, I go back to all those women who have been telling their stories all those, months about themselves, and all weekend, and I go to each one individually, to their offices, to their cubicles, and I say, hello, good morning, great retreat, I'm a lesbian. Hey, is that coffee? You got some for me? I'm a lesbian. So I told all the people one by one, real fast. I just went through, I was like, you know what, this feels good, I've got to just do this. And everyone was very kind. Some people were like, oh, okay, right. Somebody was like, well, I knew that. Someone else was like, my brother's gay. I went to okay, you just outed your brother, but okay, I don't care, I'm accepting. And they were very accepting of me. And so for me, I had already kind of owned who I was then inside. I had accepted it, my mother accepted it, but now I was living it. I was living my true self at work. So now's the next part, slay. So now, remember, everybody else has written all their stories about their personal lives, but I haven't done it. So the editors came to me and they said, we want to hear that story of how you and your mother had that 5-year battle about you being a lesbian, how you came out to her. I was like, oh no, journalists do not talk about themselves. So I asked my mother, she was like, well, you know what, let's do it if we can help someone. So I was like, well, that would really help people. So my mother and I lock ourselves in a room and we write this story and we hash it out and we relive these hard 5 years. And everything goes great with the article. We mesh our pieces together. And then the magazine closes, which means it's too late to go back. The story's in production. I was like, oh no, what have I done? I'm gonna lose my job. And after I lose this one, I'll never get another one. Plus, people will hate me. I'll get re-kicked out of the Black community. My big fear, not being in, now getting kicked out. Everything was super scary. I was calling my mom nonstop. You think it was okay? We did the right thing? She's like, it's too late. So then the day the article came out and went online, I was like, biting the nails. And then all of a sudden, the phone started ringing. The emails started coming in. Everything started flowing in. And it was an outpouring of love and support for both me and my mother. My mother's like, I'm the best mother of a lesbian ever. I'm the queen of the mother of lesbians. I was just like, oh my God, what's happened? So this article turned into one of the most responded to still in the 45-year history of the magazine. It spawned 2 more articles. So people wanted to know after we wrote the first one, are you okay? So then we wrote another one talking about, yeah, we're great. And we shared some of the letters. Next, years later, I wrote another one where I was with my mother and my 2 children. And so it turned out to be really great. But the part that really struck me was this did not ruin my career, it elevated my career. It was the slay. I put the S in slay. I really slayed doing that. Because not only did I not lose my job, I got promoted. And then after I got promoted, I stayed at Essence a few more years, and then I ended up being an editor of the New York Times because I became so known in the public and in the journalistic community for sharing my truth. So that is kind of the message that I took away, is that your identity matters, and it's part of who you are. You've got to figure out how to own it, which means accept yourself deep inside, and make sure there's somebody in your family who accepts who you are. Second, you've got to live it. You've got to figure out how to be comfortable, whether you're in the classroom, whether you're in the conference room or the boardroom. How are you going to bring part of yourself in? And that's what I had struggled so much to do. And then you've got to figure out how to share it. You have to take it to the world, and you have to figure out how to help other people be their best selves and how to make the world better with who you are and what you want to do with your own identity. All right, so that comes down to own it, live it, slay it. Own it, live it, slay it. All right, now, my son is a dancer, and so I was practicing my speech, and I was going, own it, live it, slay it, own it, live it, slay it. So he just started doing this amazing dance that was like, own it, live it, slay it. And so he said, Mom, I think you should do the dance. You should do the own it, live it, slay it dance. Oh, no. All right, so I cannot dance. at all. And so just picture when I'm going to do this little tiny crumb of the dance. This is not it, but this is how I want you to remember. Own it. Live it.